Good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining us on 13 Plus. I'm Mary Coleman. Hope your week is starting off to be a good one. Let's jump into our story for tonight. Well, each year, contaminated food sickens more people than the entire population of Texas. About 125,000 people are hospitalized and about 3,000 people die. Well, critics say the blame falls squarely on the U.S. government and a patchwork of oversight on the food you eat. Our national investigative team spent months digging and found a confusing system that allows communication gaps to turn into possible safety risks. Here's national investigative reporter Chris Nakamoto.
Let's rewind a couple of years ago. What happened to you?
Always ate fresh, always ate clean. I ate salad every day. I'm not exactly sure which day I ate it. Then I started having stomach bug issues.
What were your symptoms?
Not myself, very lethargic, and it just got worse and worse. My husband brought me to my gastroenterologist. They did a test. My doctor called my husband and said, get her to the hospital now. She has E. coli. I signed myself in, and within a few hours, I was starting delirium, toxic.
You wake up a month later?
Like 3 weeks later. I couldn't believe that the food that I loved and ate every day almost killed me.
Annette Martin says her case is among a national outbreak that killed 5 people, hospitalized 96, and sickened 210 people. Confirmed by samples, the lettuce was contaminated with E. coli from cattle feedlots that drained into an irrigation canal above where the produce was grown in Arizona.
When I read the hospital transcript, they had actually talked to my husband Mitch and my son Zach about putting me on life support. And they both agreed that I would never have that's not what I would want.
Martin's organs started shutting down. Her condition so dire she was unconscious for weeks. Martin says doctors treated her with a cocktail of experimental drugs, and she began to turn the corner.
So a lot of anger towards the food industry.
And how did you ultimately say someone needs to be held accountable for what happened to me?
So as a result of the illness, I retired from my job, which I still had several more years before I would have retired, so no more income.
Martin did an internet search and came across America's leading food safety lawyer, Bill Marler. The Seattle lawyer is responsible for the litigation that improved the safety of ground beef.
Before the Jack in the Box case, it was completely legal to knowingly sell E. coli contaminated hamburger to the public. You could have tested for it, found that it had this deadly pathogen in, and sell it anyway.
Over the past 3 decades, Bill Marler's work has highlighted just how fragile and fragmented America's food regulations are. Our national investigative team spent months digging and found the system is siloed. The Food and Drug Administration regulates seafood, dairy, produce, nuts, and cereal, just to name a few, about 80% of the food you eat. The United States Department of Agriculture oversees meat, poultry, processed egg products, and catfish, the other 20%. Marler says frozen pizza is a good example of the mess. A frozen cheese pizza is regulated by the FDA. Add meat, the USDA regulates it.
It gets very confusing, not only to the public, it's confusing to business, it's confusing to the government. Nobody would set up a food safety system the way we have it in 2024 from scratch.
There are also more than a dozen other federal agencies that regulate it, along with local and state health departments. As fragmented as the regulations are on food, state reporting requirements to the government are even more chaotic and not being enforced. In 2022, the FDA reported infant formula contamination from a Michigan factory, caused the deaths of 2 babies and sent several others to the hospital, leading to recalls and formula shortages.
That FDA was actually conducting an inspection of that facility where they were making the formula, and they identified problems, but they didn't go back to re-inspect that facility for I think 5 months after that first inspection.
Chronobacter sakazaki was the pathogen found in the formula. The CDC added it to a watch list in January as a nationally notifiable disease, meaning it's on a list of around 120 diseases the federal government wants states to let them know about when cases pop up. But our national investigative team found as of May, it's up to each state to decide what results from patients it actually reports to the CDC. We contacted all 50 states and the District of Columbia and found 27 states report cases of Chronobacter sakazaki, 22 of them don't. One state and the District of Columbia did not respond. That's not all. Another nationally notifiable disease, Campylobacter, was added to the Fed's radar as a reportable disease in 2015. It's the most common pathogen and sickens 1.5 million Americans per year and can be deadly to babies. Our investigative team found all states reported to the feds except for Mississippi.
You've got different agencies overseeing different foods. There's no really one person in charge or a group of people in charge. That the ability to go, hey, we should fix this and this is how we should do it.
It sounds like a simple fix. Why hasn't it been fixed?
There's a lot of powerful people, who like the status quo. There's a lot of organizations that, ostensibly are there to support the industry.
Investigate TV analyzed 140 foodborne illness outbreaks that sickened Americans in multiple states. Federal investigators could only trace the tainted product to a farm, factory, or meat processing facility in 59 of the cases, showing how tough it is to find the source. In 36 outbreaks, they couldn't even determine which food was responsible. But when they did single out a product, produce accounted for 39 of the multi-state outbreaks. Leafy greens, prepackaged salads, peaches, frozen strawberries, and onions grown in Mexico and California are among the products that have been linked to contamination. Since 2018, only 29 of the foodborne outbreaks have been linked to meat, poultry, and seafood. It's that lack of being able to trace back sources and other issues that had the Government Accountability Office first clamoring for change in 2007, with 4 presidents and Congress failing to act. Steve Morris with the GAO says more people will continue to get sick until something is done.
We're continuing to press for, a more unified kind of a national strategy type effort that brings all the key players together.
Morris believes the lack of action and complexity of who regulates what adds confusion.
USDA oversees processed egg products, okay? But they also have an entity within USDA that grades the eggs, okay? They may be in the same facility as FDA inspectors who are there overseeing the safety of the entire egg itself.
With Martin's new outlook on life also comes changes.
So you're a firm believer that faith brought you through this whole odyssey.
Absolutely.
And she's not waiting on the government. Following her sickness, she started growing her own lettuce and has totally changed the way she eats.
Yeah.
What about your eating habits? You changed that too?
Yes. No more salad. No more medium rare steaks, no more raw oysters. I'm super careful. I wash all my fruits and vegetables before I eat them. If there's a chance that it could be dangerous, I cook it if it's possible to 165 temp.
Well, Congress passed the Food Safety Modernization Act 14 years ago, giving the FDA recall authority for food. Critics say despite those positive efforts, it doesn't address the fragmentation of the system. We leave you with a live look from our Mount Bigelow cam where that sun is setting out there. You see a little wind in that tree too. If you're anything like me, your allergies have been acting up. So hopefully you've got those under control with some allergy medications like I do. Hope you're having a great evening, and we'll hope you join us for more news on 13 News live at 10. Have a good night.